The moment that doorbell rang, I had no idea my entire understanding of people, kindness, and even my own character was about to be ripped apart and rebuilt from scratch. At the time, it just felt like an interruption, like bad timing on a day that was supposed to be simple and comfortable. Looking back now, that sound feels less like a doorbell and more like a test. I didn't even realize I was failing. I was standing in the dining room, carefully placing plates on the table, trying not to chip the delicate edges of my grandmother's china. We only brought those dishes out once a year, and even then, my mom hovered like a security guard, making sure no one treated them carelessly. The smell of roasted turkey drifted from the kitchen, warm and familiar, wrapping the house in that comforting Thanksgiving feeling. I called out for someone to get the door, but my younger brother Ethan stayed glued to his phone, completely absorbed in whatever was on his screen. I felt irritation rising as the bell rang again, sharper this time, more insistent. Before I could react, my dad walked in from the garage, wiping his hands on an old towel, and headed toward the front door without saying much. I went back to setting the table, trying to keep everything aligned just right. There were only 4 place settings this year, just the 4 of us, which my mom kept calling intimate, though I suspected it really meant easier. The house felt quiet, almost too quiet, until I heard the door open, and then a pause that stretched longer than it should have. My dad's voice came first, cautious but polite, asking if he could help. Then another voice answered, low and worn down, the kind of voice that sounded like it had been carrying weight for too long. The man apologized for disturbing us and asked if we had any food to spare. I froze in place, my hand still hovering over the table. Something about hearing those words on a day like Thanksgiving made my chest tighten in a way I didn't understand. My mom stepped into the doorway, and we looked at each other without speaking. We both knew what this meant, and neither of us liked it. A stranger at our door, asking for food, right when we were about to sit down as a family. It felt uncomfortable, out of place, almost like something that wasn't supposed to happen to people like us. My dad closed the door gently and walked into the kitchen, his expression distant, like his mind was somewhere else entirely. The conversation that followed started quietly, but quickly turned tense. My mom insisted we should give the man some leftovers later, or maybe a little money, something simple that wouldn't disrupt anything. My dad didn't agree. I could see it in his face before he even said the words. He wanted to invite the man inside. That idea landed in the room like something heavy and dangerous. I immediately sided with my mom, even though part of me didn't want to get involved. It felt easier to call it common sense. We didn't know him. We didn't know where he came from, or what he might do. It was our home, our space, our holiday. My dad listened to us, but his expression didn't change. He had already decided. Then he said something that caught me off guard. He said he knew what it felt like to be invisible. I had never heard him talk like that before. He told us about growing up with nothing, about being overlooked, about how one person had seen something in him when no one else did. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried something stronger than anger. It carried conviction. I didn't want to admit it, but his words made me uncomfortable in a different way. Not because I disagreed completely, but because I could feel a part of me resisting something I didn't fully understand. Still, I held my ground. I told him it wasn't our responsibility. The second those words left my mouth, I saw the disappointment in his eyes, and it stung more than I expected. Without waiting for approval, my dad turned back to the door and opened it again. He invited the man inside, his voice steady and certain. There was a long pause before the man responded, hesitant and unsure, as if he couldn't believe the offer was real. When he finally stepped into our house, everything shifted. He looked older, maybe around 60, with tired eyes and a body that seemed worn down by years of hardship. His clothes were faded and too large, his shoes barely holding together. But there was something about him that didn't match the image I had in my head. He wasn't aggressive or demanding. He was careful, almost apologetic, as if he didn't want to take up space he didn't deserve. My mom forced a polite smile, though I could tell she was still uneasy. My dad treated him like any other guest, showing him where to wash up and offering him a clean shirt. Watching that, I felt conflicted. Part of me was still uncomfortable, still wanting this to be over quickly, but another part of me was starting to notice things I hadn't before. When we finally sat down at the table, the atmosphere was tense and awkward. The man introduced himself as Daniel, his voice soft but respectful. He took small portions of food, almost like he was afraid of taking too much. My dad encouraged him to eat, reminding him there was plenty, but Daniel remained careful, grateful for every bite. Then came the moment we always had before eating, sharing what we were thankful for. It felt different this time, heavier. When it was Daniel's turn, he spoke in a way that completely changed the room. He said he was grateful for kindness, real kindness, the kind that doesn't depend on convenience. He talked about what it meant to be seen, to be treated like a person instead of being ignored. Something inside me cracked when I heard that. I realized how easily I had been ready to turn him away. Not because I truly believed he was dangerous, but because he made me uncomfortable. That realization hit harder than anything my dad had said earlier. As the dinner continued, we learned more about him. He had been a teacher for decades, someone who had spent his life helping others. My dad suddenly went quiet, staring at him like he was seeing a ghost. Then it all connected. Daniel had been my dad's teacher when he was a kid, the very person who had believed in him when no one else did. The weight of that moment was almost overwhelming. The stranger I had judged so quickly wasn't just anyone. He was someone who had changed my dad's life, someone who had helped shape the person sitting at our table today. And now, he was the one who needed help. The rest of the night unfolded in a way I never could have expected. We listened as Daniel shared his story, how his wife had gotten sick, how he had given everything to take care of her, how he had lost everything in the process. There was no bitterness in his voice, just exhaustion and quiet acceptance. By the end of the night, my perspective had completely shifted. I saw him not as a stranger, but as a person with a history, with love, with loss. I saw how close we had come to turning him away, to missing the chance to do something meaningful. When I apologized to him, it felt small compared to what I had almost done, but he accepted it with a kindness that made me feel even more humbled. He didn't judge me. He understood. He stayed with us for a while, long enough to get back on his feet. Over time, he rebuilt his life, returning to teaching, doing what he loved. Watching that transformation was something I will never forget. A year later, when Thanksgiving came around again, he wasn't a stranger anymore. He was part of our lives, part of our story. And when it was my turn to say what I was grateful for, I didn't hesitate. I said I was grateful for being wrong, for learning that compassion isn't about convenience or comfort. It's about choosing to see people, even when it's hard. That doorbell didn't just bring someone into our home that day. It opened something in me that I didn't even know was closed. And I think that's what changed everything.